Good evening, kids. In the previous topic, we had studied asexual reproduction, and we also discussed that asexual reproduction is basically very common in the case of plants and also lower animals. Okay, but when we talk about higher organisms, like when we talk about humans or any other animals, we all know that sexual reproduction is the method by which a particular organism will reproduce. Okay, right. Now, when we talk about sexual reproduction, a very common question arises: what are the advantages of sexual reproduction over asexual? Now, let us take, for example, any lower organism like an algae or a fungus. Okay. Normally, under favorable conditions, they will always reproduce asexually. But before the onset of unfavorable conditions, or I can say before unfavorable condition starts, they will always try to reproduce sexually. The reason for that is, okay, when we talk about sexual reproduction, there is always possibility that new combinations may arise, or I can say variations may arise, and those variations may help the organism or that particular offspring to survive even in adverse condition. Okay, so this is the major advantage of sexual reproduction over asexual reproduction. That is nothing but I can say that the new offspring will have better characters, of course, quote unquote, right? But I can always say that asexual reproduction is always favored during normal conditions, and sexual reproduction is always favored during, I can say, before the onset of unfavorable condition. You can actually answer this particular question. It is on page number 8 of your NCERT textbook, that why sexual reproduction is favored over asexual reproduction. Okay. So the best answer I told you is that there is always possibility of variations. Okay. And those variations may help that particular organism to survive in adverse conditions. Okay. Right. Now, let's come to the sexual reproduction part. As I told you that higher organisms always go for sexual reproduction. Okay. Now, can I say in sexual reproduction, there is always fusion of gametes. That is, definitely we are having male gamete and we are having something called as female gamete. So fusion of male and female gamete to develop a new organism, okay, which many people call them as offspring. And this offspring का जो सबसे पहला cell होगा, can I say it is going to be zygote? Okay, right. So this is the basic introduction for your sexual reproduction, that is fusion of male and female gametes. Okay, right. Now, one more important point is that you need to remember that gametes are haploid. Okay, whereas the offspring or that organism which is formed as a sexual reproduction, as a result of sexual reproduction to be very specific, is going to be always diploid. Okay, now any organism. Now let us talk about plants. Okay, so now when we talk about plants, any plant before it undergoes sexual reproduction or before it wants to perform sexual reproduction, it has to grow. Okay, now that particular phase where an organism grows is called as juvenile phase. Okay, or many people call it as vegetative phase also. Okay, once they attain that juvenile phase, then they can enter into something called as reproductive phase. And please remember, juvenile phase varies from plant to plant. Okay, now if you take your NCERT page number 9, now I'm being very specific to NCERT because this particular chapter, in the beginning itself I told you that this is specifically a separate chapter in NCERT book. Our state government doesn't have this specific chapter, but all the kids, those who are not even giving NEET, I request you to please upgrade your knowledge, and gaining knowledge, there is always no harm. Okay, so now let's come to page number 9 of your NCERT. Now there are certain plants which they have asked us to mention the juvenile phase. Okay. Now the first plant which they have given is marigold or marigold, whatever you call it as. And they have asked what is the vegetative phase or the juvenile phase, कितना time लगता है. Okay. तो एक marigold plant को जुवेनाइल फेज कंप्लीट करने के लिए अराउंड 55 to 60 डेज का समय चाहिए. So we can take this as approximately 3 months. Okay. So the first plant, I request all my kids to please write down this, right? So marigold will take 55 to 60 days or approximately 3 months. Okay. The second plant which is mentioned in your NCERT book is rice. I will just erase this particular part. The first plant which they asked was which is approximately 3 months. Okay. Now let us come to the second plant. The second plant mentioned in your NCERT is rice. So when we talk about rice, again, the time period is around 55 to 80 days. Depending on the variety of rice which we are talking about. Okay, right? So now when we convert it into months, can I say it is around approximately 3 to 3.5 or 4 months? Okay, so this is the time period for rice. Again, I told you it will vary. Okay, from variety to variety. Now let us come to the next, that is wheat. Now the third plant which they have mentioned in NCERT is wheat. The time period for wheat again varies as per its variety. Okay. So now the time period for wheat will vary from 60 to around 150 days. Okay. Right. Next plant which they have asked is coconut. Coconut may take around 4 to 7 years to complete its juvenile phase before it starts flowering. Okay. Next plant is mango. Mango also takes around 4 to 6 years before it starts flowering. Okay. So these are the plants mentioned in your NCERT, and I want you people to take a note of the juvenile phase, or I can say the flowering period. Is it okay? Rather before the flowering period. Okay. Now there is one very intriguing question which is asked in your NCERT book. In some plants, if you are there with me on page number 9, you can see that there is a question which I'm trying to answer. In some plants where flowering occurs more than once, what would you call the interflowering period? Juvenile or mature? Okay, listen. Now, understand this. Let us consider there is a plant. We will take an example again given in NCERT book itself. Okay, there is a plant called as Strobilanthus kunthiana, or it is also called as Neelkurenji. Now this particular plant flowers every 12 years. Okay, तो इसका जो फ्लावरिंग, या मैं ऐसे बोलूंगा, दो फ्लावरिंग के बीच में जो पीरियड है, लेट अस कंसीडर, ओके, वो 2000 हमारी एनसीईआरटी बुक के अनुसार ये फ्लावर हुआ था 2006 में, और उसके बाद वो फ्लावर हुआ है 2018 में. So now there is a particular question which I'm trying to answer over here. This period and this period, okay, this particular period is called as interflowering period. Okay, now what is this interflowering period actually called as? Let us understand this. Now this interflowering period is called as vegetative phase or juvenile phase. Now you may ask, sir, why? क्योंकि एक बार तो उसने जुवेनाइल फेज अटेंड किया था ना, वापस क्यों वो करेगा? तो अभी जरा अंडरस्टैंड दिस वेरी वेल. ओके, जब भी वो 2006 में फ्लावर किया था तो उसने अपना सारा हार्मोन इस्तेमाल कर दिया था फॉर प्रोड्यूसिंग फ्लावर्स. ओके, so now this particular plant will again take around 12 years to produce the similar hormone, or I can say there is a hormone called as florigen. Of course, it is hypothetical one, right? But then that particular time period is required for production of, let us consider the hormones which help in flowering. Okay, तो उतना समय उसको वापस वो विगर लेने के लिए या वो हार्मोन बनाने के लिए इस्तेमाल होगा. Okay, and therefore this particular interflowering period will be called as juvenile phase. Okay, now one more important point. Now please remember those plants which flower multiple times in their life cycle are called as polycarpic. So I can say that Strobilanthes kunthiana is a polycarpic plant. Polycarpic का मतलब है ये बहुत बार अपने जीवन काल में फ्लावर करेंगे. Okay, right. Whereas when we talk about bamboo, right, bamboo flowers only once in its entire lifetime. Okay, तो ऐसे plants को हम बुलाएंगे monocarpic. So monocarpic plants are those which produce, or rather which flower only once in their lifetime. Again, I request all my kids to come to NCERT book. Again, come to page number 9 itself, right? Okay. There are some, again, examples which they have asked. Do they flower during the same month or year or whatever? Okay, then you can see that they have asked us, like, do you get mango during a particular period? Yes, the answer is yes. Can I say mango is a seasonal plant? Okay, you can get mango only in the month of April, May, and I can say some weeks of June. Okay, then again apple, can I say apple you can get throughout. It is not actually seasonal now, because by horticulture method you have cultivated it. Okay, then there is another example they have asked us, jackfruit. Yes, jackfruit is also seasonal. So these are all, we can say that, seasonal plants which produce flowers and fruits only during a particular time of the year. Okay, so that answer is taken also. That particular question is taken care of. Okay, now listen, whenever we talk about plants, we have again divided plants into 3 different categories. So kids, please remember, Strobilanthes, or any plant which produces multiple times flowering in their lifetime, we call them as polycarpic. And the plants which produce flowers only once in their entire lifetime, we call them as monocarpic. Okay, bamboo is monocarpic, whereas Strobilanthes kunthiana, which I'm talking about, the example taken from NCERT book, is polycarpic plant. Okay, right. Now let's proceed one step. Now kids, we have divided plants into 3 basic categories. Okay, the first type of plants are called as annuals. Now annuals are those plants which complete their life cycle, okay, within 1 year. For example, rice is an annual plant. Pisum sativum is an annual plant because it completes its life cycle within 3 to 4 months. Okay, so we call them as annuals. The one which complete their life cycle in 2 years are called as biennials. You can come to your NCERT book, okay, and we call them as biennial. So within 1 year, two years, okay, right, so we call them as biennials. Now one important point which we need to remember is that in annuals and biennials, you have a clear-cut vegetative and a reproductive phase. Okay, so vegetative phase is clear-cut, well-defined, and reproductive phase is also clear-cut, well-defined. Okay, but now there is a third category which is important, and we call them as perennials. Okay, so now if you again see, there is another mention called as perennial plants. Perennial plants take more than 2 years for completing their life cycle. Okay, or I can say in this particular group of plants, you cannot have clear-cut vegetative and reproductive phases. Okay, so you cannot have them, or rather, listen. Once they reproduce, they enter into a phase called as senescence. आप लोगों ने 11th में शायद ये टर्म सुना रहेगा. Senescence का basically मतलब होता है aging. When I talk about plants, okay, there is something called as yellowing of leaf, and yellowing of leaf is an act of senescence. Okay, right, or aging. Getting it, kids? Right. So with this, we have taken care of another paragraph from your NCERT page number 9, right? You can actually read. उधर पे ऐसे लिखा है, a few plants exhibit unusual flowering phenomenon. Some of them, such as bamboo, flower only once in their lifetime. That is, we call them as monocarpic. Okay, whereas other plants are called as polycarpic. The example which is given in your book is Strobilanthes kunthiana. Okay, right. Last time वो flower हुआ था 2018 में. Okay, हमारे बुक में सिर्फ 2006 दिया है, पर 2018 में भी वो फ्लावर हुआ था. Is it okay? चल, now this is basically with regards to plants. I'm repeating again. Annuals are the one which complete their life cycle within 1 year. Biennials are the one which complete their life cycle within 2 years, and perennial are the one which take more than 2 years. Okay, in them vegetative and senescent phases are clear-cut seen. Here it is very, very difficult in the case of perennial plants. Okay, now let's proceed one step ahead. Now kids, this was all with regards to plants. Okay, now when we talk about animals, we also have seen that there are certain examples which are mentioned again in NCERT. See, I'm sticking to NCERT because that is the basic book which we refer, okay, as per NTA syllabus for NEET exams. Okay, right. You can have any other reference book also, but then let us first go through NCERT in detail. Okay, right. Now, coming to that, now, do humans also need to attain maturity before they undergo reproduction? Yes, the answer is 18 years. Now, I hope you all know that the legal age for getting married in India is 18 years. The reason for that is, according to medical sciences, we require 18 years to complete our vegetative, or I can say juvenile phase. Okay, इसका मतलब है कि now the particular human being is ready to nurture a child. Before 18 years, the body is not, I can say, supportive in giving birth to a child. Of course, there are I can say like lame cases of girls giving birth at the age of 14, 15 or 16, but let us not get into those particular stupid things. Okay, right. We are talking about legal age in India is 18 years. Okay. So, of course, human beings also require a particular time to attain maturity. And after that, they can definitely enter into the reproductive phase. Okay. Now, another NCERT question. Among animals, birds, do they lay eggs all throughout the year? The answer is no. It is a seasonal phenomenon. Unless and until the bird is in captivity. Captivity का मतलब है अगर मैं hen की बात करता हूं, तो hen हम लोगों ने पोल्ट्री के लिए definitely उसको throughout the year we are trying to get eggs through that particular hen. Okay, but that is in poultry farming. But when we talk in nature, they are seasonal breeders. Okay, when we talk about frog is a seasonal breeder. Okay, lizard is a seasonal breeder, right? And even birds, they also are seasonal breeders. Okay, even when we talk about crow, yes, they are seasonal breeders. Getting it, kids? Right. But we are not talking about animals which are in captivity. Remember that we are rearing it for our own benefit. So hen in captivity is not a seasonal breeder, but definitely she is breeding throughout. Okay, kids? Right. So now coming to animals, okay, definitely we are more interested in human beings. So when we talk about females of placental mammals, okay, we all know that they show a cyclical hormonal changes during reproductive phase. Okay, now again, when we talk about placental mammals, we are having primates and we are having non-primates like donkey, deer. Okay, they are all non-primates and they follow a particular cycle which is called as estrus cycle. Okay, you will be learning that in detail in a chapter called as reproduction in animals. Okay, right. And other type of cycle which we all are aware in primates, that is in humans, monkeys and apes, there is something called as menstrual cycle. Okay, now please understand, in wild, that means when we talk about in nature, there are two types of organisms. Number one, seasonal breeders, and number two, continuous breeders. Okay, now when we talk about deer, right, we can say that deer is basically a continuous breeder. But when we talk about tiger, can I say they are seasonal breeders? Okay, there is something called as mating season during which they actually copulate and they give birth to young ones. Okay, right. So one has to remember that we are having continuous breeders and we are having something called as seasonal breeders. Okay, right. Now, after reproduction, normally, okay, there is a particular age during which a particular female can give birth. After that, in humans, we all know that the females undergo a pause, which is called as menopause. And after that, okay, there is something called as senescence or aging, or we say that the process of growing old has started. Okay, right. So remember, whenever we talk about growth, हम लोग बात करेंगे पहले वेजिटेटिव फेज की या जुवेनाइल फेज की, then there is something called as reproductive phase, and then there is something called as post reproductive phase, or I can say aging. Okay, right. And we all know that when we are growing old, the metabolism rate will decrease, right? Okay, in the case of plants, you may see that the leaves are getting yellow in color, right? There is leaf fall, etc., and ultimately the plant will die. The same is in the case of animals also. There is aging, the metabolism will decrease, ability to move in and around will again be decreased, and finally that will lead to death. Okay, clear, kids? Now let us talk about events in sexual reproduction. I hope this point is very clear with everyone. Now let's talk about events in sexual reproduction. Now kids, we have divided the events into three phases. Number one, pre-fertilization. Fertilization. And post-fertilization. So these are the three events, okay, which are very, very important in the case of sexual reproduction. Okay, for asexual reproduction, we don't require all these things. Okay, right? Clear, kids? So now let us take one by one. Let us first focus on pre-fertilization. Now listen, in pre-fertilization, the most important event is called as gametogenesis. Now, we all know that gametogenesis is nothing but formation of gametes. Okay, right. So whenever any organism is involved in gamete formation, we call that particular event as gametogenesis. Okay, once these gametes are formed, right, then these gametes have to be transferred. Now you will be definitely learning in detail in a chapter called as animal reproduction that the fertilization can be external or it can be internal. In the case of humans, the fertilization is internal, whereas in the case of fishes, the fertilization is external. Okay, so it all depends on animal, right? Okay, so let us now get into gametogenesis wala part. Okay, so when we talk about gametogenesis, okay, we all know that gametogenesis is formation of male and female gametes. Okay, now listen, kids, when the gametes are morphologically different, for example, when a sperm has a different size and ovum has a different size, then we call the condition as heterogametes. Okay. Now, please remember, when we talk about sexual reproduction in higher plants or in higher organisms, the gametes are always different morphologically. Okay. And we call them as heterogametic condition. But when we talk about algae, I hope you must have heard about green algae, right? In the case of algae or green algae, many green algae, not all, okay, there is a condition called as isogametes. Now, when I say isogametes, okay, remember, I am talking about homogametes. Now, bacha, when I say homogametes, we need to remember that morphologically, both the gametes are similar. Yani, one cannot identify which is male and which is female. For example, okay, in the case of Cladophora, I want you all to come to NCERT page number 10, 1010. Okay. On that page number 10, there is a particular diagram of isogametes of Cladophora, which is an algae. You can see that both the gametes are similar morphologically. उनका दोनों का shape और size exactly same है. तो हम बोल नहीं सकते कि कौन सा मेल है और कौन सा फीमेल है. Is it okay? Right. Then you can come to the next example, heterogametes. Again, it is an example called as Fucus, which is also an algae. Right. उसमें अगर आप ध्यान से देखेंगे, the female gamete is huge as compared to male gamete. So can I use the word heterogametic condition? Of course, yes. Okay. And the third example is of human gametes. You can see the circular is nothing but, it is a female gamete called as an egg, and the whip-like structures over there are nothing but the male gametes, which we call them as sperms. Okay. So isogamous, anisogamous. Okay. And the last is definitely, or I can say, heterogametic condition. Is it okay, kids? Right. Now, let us start with something called as sexuality in organisms. So now let us talk about something called as sexuality in organisms. Okay. Now we all need to remember these terms, and these terms are, I can say, used for certain group of organisms itself. Okay. So now let us start with the first term, that is homothallic. Now we all know that thallus is nothing but flat structure or flat body. So please remember, homothallic is the term when both the genders, or I can say when both male and female sex organs are present on the same thallus. Okay. For example, there is a particular fungus, which I hope you must have heard about the name, called as Puccinia. Puccinia is an example of homothallic fungus. Okay. Now please remember, usually in biology, homothallic is the word used especially for fungus or few algae. Okay. We don't use this homothallic word for higher plants or animals. Okay. Right. So remember, homothallic, male and female sex organs on the same thallus. Example is Puccinia. Okay. And when we talk about heterothallic, we now know like the male and female are present on the different thallus. Okay. And the example of this is yeast. You can take another example, Aspergillus niger. Aspergillus niger. Okay. So that is heterothallic fungus for you, when male and female are present on different thallus. Okay. Right. So please remember, homo and heterothallic is word usually used for lower algae, or I have written it over here for the fungus. Okay. Right. Now let us come to the next important term called as monoecious. Okay. Now please remember, whenever we talk about monoecious is the term basically used for the plant itself. Okay. Not for the flower. For a flower, we can go with a word called as unisexual flowers. Okay. But when I use the term monoecious, I am talking about male and female flowers present on the same plant, or I can say male and female sex organs are present on the same plant. For example, in the case of coconut, okay, coconut is a monoecious plant, right? Then you must have heard about another example called as maize. हमने किया था. In the case of maize, even the male and female are present on the same plant. Okay, so you can take an example. I hope you are, if you are having NCERT book, you can also have one more example which they have mentioned as cucurbits. Cucurbits are nothing but kaddu या भोपला हम लोग जिसको बोलते हैं, right? Okay, so cucurbits also show monoecious condition, that is the male and the female, that is androecium and gynoecium is present on the same plant. Okay, right? So remember, monoecious word is usually used for plants. Okay, unisexual and bisexual can be used for the plants. Is it okay, kids? Right, great. Now the next is dioecious. Now, when you have a male plant different and a female plant different, यानी male plant ही अलग है और female plant ही अलग है. In the case of papaya, right, the male plant is different and the female plant is different. Okay. Another example given in your NCERT is date palm, that is खजूर, right? तो उसमें भी male plant अलग है और female plant अलग है. तो इसको हम लोग बुलाएंगे dioecious condition. So you can take an example for this as papaya. Okay, right. Very clear, kids? So remember this term, monoecious and dioecious. Now let us come to animals. Now when we have a male different and a female different, we will be using the word unisexual. Okay. And the best example is cockroach. Cockroach again mentioned in your NCERT. That is the reason I'm specifying it. Right? It is unisexual. And when we talk about bisexual, another term is hermaphrodite, as you can read. Okay, and the best example is earthworm, leech, etc. Now I want all my kids to come to your NCERT book. Come to page number 12. I request everyone to come to please page number 12. There are some diagrams which I want you people to understand. The first diagram, the A diagram, is of an earthworm, right? And earthworm is said to be hermaphrodite, or you can also use the word bisexual. Okay, right. The next example which you can see over there is an algae. The name of that algae is Chara. Okay, the C wala diagram, not B wala. B is definitely, like you can see it's cockroach. B is cockroach. I am talking about C. C is an algae called as Chara, C-H-A-R-A. Okay. Now, if you observe, there is something written called as oogonium, right, which is female sex organ. And below that, there is a ball-like structure called as antheridium, which is the male sex organ. Okay. So female and male on the same plant. So you can say that Chara is monoecious. I repeat, Chara is monoecious. Okay, kids, remember this very well. Okay, right. Another example, I am coming to example D. D is a bryophyta called as Markensia, and it shows dioecious condition. Okay, dioecious का मतलब है मेल प्लांट ही अलग है या मेल थैलस ही अलग है और फीमेल थैलस ही अलग है. Okay, वहां पे आप देखेंगे there is something called as anthridiophore. Antheridia is nothing but male and phora is nothing but elongated structure. तो मेल सेक्स ऑर्गन जिसके ऊपर है उसको तुम बुलाएगा anthridiophore, and the entire plant is called as the male plant or the male thallus. Okay, and archigoniophore is the one which has got the female sex organ, and you can use the word female thallus. Okay, and they show something called as dioecious condition. Okay, kids, right? Then the E diagram which you can see is of a flower, sweet potato. Okay, and there you can see that carpel and stamen both are present. That is andro and gyno both are present. So you can call the flower as a bisexual flower. I repeat, you can call the flower as a bisexual flower. Okay, kids? Right. So this is with regards to sexuality of organisms. Okay, right? So now, once the sexuality is known to us, the second thing which we, or rather the third thing which we need to know in pre-fertilization event is cell division, okay, which is very much important for formation of gametes. Now, kids, one important thing which you need to remember is the important plant body, that is it haploid or diploid. Okay. Now, when we talk about Monera, okay, when we talk about fungi, when we talk about algae, when we talk about bryophytes, okay, you all know that they are eukaryotes. Okay. Of course, when I talk about Monera, forget about them. When we talk about fungi, when we talk about algae, now purposefully I have marked asterisk over here because there are some algae varieties which have diploid plant body. They follow a cycle called as diplontic life cycle. So we will not get into that because that you have already done in your 11th standard. Okay, right? So when we talk about fungus, algae, and bryophytes, okay, their plant body itself is haploid. Okay, if a haploid plant body wants to produce gametes, now one important point which you need to remember is that gametes are invariably haploid. Gamete कभी भी diploid नहीं हो सकता. Okay, so gametes are invariably haploid, and these organisms undergo a process of cell division called as mitosis, okay, for formation of gametes. But when we talk about pteridophyta, gymnosperms, angiosperms, or to that extent even humans, okay, our entire body is diploid. So we undergo a process called as meiosis, or you can also use the word reduction division for formation of gametes. Okay, and one more important point. The cell which undergoes meiosis is called as meiocyte. Okay, so meiocyte can be haploid or it can be diploid. Okay, but as I'm talking about diploid plant body or diploid body, right, I'm talking about meiocyte. Is it okay, kid? Right. Now, if you come to your NCERT, there is a particular table given on your page number 13, right? And you can see that there is chromosome number present in meiocyte written as diploid or 2n. For humans, they have given the chromosome number as 46, and the chromosome number in gamete is going to be 23. Okay. Now, kids, you need to fill that on your own because it doesn't require, it's a no-brainer activity. So you can do it, might as well on your own. Okay. Now, there are some important organisms which you need to remember without fail. Of course, you need to know all, but then there are some very, very important. Number one, which I am talking about, is fruit fly. Okay. Fruit fly is also called as Drosophila melanogaster. Important for our genetics experiment. So please remember uska chromosome number. You can see the diploid number is 8. So the haploid number in the gamete will be 4. Okay. Another plant which you need to remember is onion. You can see onion. The number for the gamete is given as 8. So meiocyte will be 16. Okay, kids. Very clear? Now, the next important part in pre-fertilization event is gamete transfer. Okay. Now, we all know that in the case of higher plants, we have studied something called as pollination. Okay. So pollination is an event which occurs in higher plants for the transfer of pollen grains, and these pollen grains, when deposited on stigma, they will germinate to produce pollen tube which will carry male gamete. Okay. So after cell division, there is something called as gamete transfer. Now, kids, if you just recollect, okay, I told you that there are two types of fertilization, internal and external. Okay. So now let us talk about the lower plants. Now, when I say lower plants, I'm talking about algae, bryophyta, etc. Now, if you recollect your 11th standard thing, say I'm not going in 11th standard basically now, but just remember, right? In the case of algae, the male gametes have to reach the female gamete. In the case of Chara, right? Okay. The male gametes are released in water. The water is the medium through which the anthrozoids would swim and reach the female gamete. Okay, right. So you require a medium, or I can say external medium, for transfer of gametes. Even in the case of bryophytes, right, you require medium, which is nothing but water. Okay, so water is required for fertilization, right? because uske bina male gametes cannot reach the female gamete. As I told you, in gymnosperms, again the pollen grains are formed, right? And pollen grains are usually carried with the help of wind. So they are, I hope you all know, wind pollinated plants. But when we talk about angiosperms, you all know that there are different agents. They can be biotic or abiotic: wind, water, insect, snakes, bats, etc., etc., etc. Okay, which will definitely help in transferring the pollen grains to the female. Okay. Now, please, one more thing. When we talk about humans, you all know that the fertilization is internal. Okay. And the method which we normally use is nothing but copulation. The details of that you will be studying in a topic called as animal reproduction or reproduction in humans, right? Okay. So उसमें तुम लोग detail में पढ़ेंगे about pre-fertilization event, fertilization event, and post-fertilization event. We are just giving an overview in this particular chapter. One more important point, kids, we all need to remember, rather, you all need to remember that I am sticking to NCERT, right? Okay, and I recommend that you read NCERT line by line, page to page. Okay, with this, we will complete today's part. That is nothing but pre-fertilization event required for sexual reproduction. Okay, in the next lecture or in the next video tutorial, I will be trying to cover up the event of fertilization, right? And post-fertilization changes. Okay, kids? Bye. Till then, read NCERT, read your state government book, but unfortunately, they don't have a dedicated chapter in state government, right? Okay. So, prefer NCERT book. Okay, take care. Bye. God bless you all.